Have you ever stepped outside early in the morning and wondered who watered the grass? Every blade sparkles with tiny drops of water. Flowers seem covered in crystals. A spider's web, almost invisible the evening before, suddenly shines like a delicate necklace stretched between two branches, yet there wasn't a rainstorm during the night. No sprinkler quietly switched on. No one walked through the garden with a watering can. So where did all that water come from? Morning dew is one of nature's quietest mysteries. We see it throughout our lives, but rarely stop to think about it. We simply accept that some mornings the world wakes up glistening, and by lunchtime the evidence has almost completely disappeared. It feels as though the morning itself has left behind a gift. Imagine standing in a garden just before sunrise. The air is cool, the world is unusually still. The birds haven't quite begun their morning chorus, and the sky is only beginning to trade its deep blues for soft shades of gold. Everything seems to be waiting. Beneath your feet, the grass is damp. Tiny drops cling to rose petals. The wooden fence feels cool beneath your hand. Nothing appears to be happening. But all through the night, the garden has been quietly changing. Many people imagine dew falls from the sky like an invisible nighttime rain. It seems like the most reasonable explanation. After all, when we find water outside, we naturally assume it must have fallen from above. But dew has an entirely different story to tell. The remarkable truth is that the water covering the garden this morning was already here yesterday, not hidden inside the flowers, not stored beneath the grass, not waiting inside a cloud. It was floating quietly in the air all around you. Even when the sky looks perfectly clear, the air is carrying tiny amounts of invisible water. We can't see it, we rarely think about it. Yet every gentle breeze carries it through forests, across lakes, over rooftops, through neighborhoods, and around every living thing. Even the breath you just took contained a little of that invisible water. In a way, we spend our entire lives surrounded by water we never notice. During the day, sunlight warms almost everything around us. Garden stones absorb heat, wooden fences grow warm beneath the afternoon sun, leaves soak in the daylight. Even the grass quietly stores a little warmth before evening arrives. Then the sun begins to set. The shadows grow longer, the colors soften. One by one, the sounds of the day begin to fade. Without the sun replacing the warmth, the earth slowly begins to cool. Not everything cools at the same speed. A metal chair left on the patio may feel chilly while the brick walkway still feels pleasantly warm. The roof of a parked car often cools before the sidewalk beside it. And one of the fastest things to cool is the grass itself. Each blade is thin and delicate, with very little stored warmth. As the night grows cooler, every blade quietly gives its warmth back to the sky. Now, something extraordinary begins to happen. Remember the invisible water floating in the air. As that moist air gently touches the cool blades of grass, flower petals, and leaves, it suddenly meets a surface that has become colder than the surrounding air. The invisible water can no longer stay invisible. A tiny droplet appears. Then another. Then another. No sound, no movement, no rain. Just thousands upon thousands of tiny drops quietly gathering while the world sleeps. By the time dawn arrives, every blade of grass has become a tiny resting place for water that only hours before had been completely invisible. Then the first rays of sunlight reach the garden. Suddenly the ordinary becomes extraordinary. Every droplet catches the morning light. Some sparkle like tiny diamonds, others glow softly like pearls. A spiderweb that disappeared into the darkness the night before now becomes one of the most beautiful sights in the entire garden. For a few peaceful moments, the world seems covered in jewels. And yet this beautiful display is only the beginning of the story. At sunrise, you'll notice something curious. Look closely on a summer morning. The grass is wet, while the sidewalk just beside it is completely dry. But why? The answer lies in how each one lets go of the day's warmth. Grass is surprisingly quick to cool. Each slender blade has very little heat to hold onto. So as the night grows darker, it becomes cooler and cooler. Concrete tells a different story. After spending all day in the sunshine, it quietly stores that warmth and releases it much more slowly, and by the time morning arrives, the sidewalk is often still just warm enough that the tiny drops never have a chance to form. That's why a lawn can sparkle like it's been dusted with jewels while the path beside it remains perfectly dry. Once you know what to look for, you'll begin seeing this quiet pattern everywhere. dew gathers on broad leaves while nearby stones stay dry. It clings to a parked car while the brick wall beside it remains bare. It decorates wooden fences, flower petals, and garden furniture, each surface following its own quiet conversation with the cool night air. Not every morning is the same. Why? The sky has been telling the story all night. The richest dew usually appears after calm, clear evenings. Without clouds overhead, the earth can release its warmth into the open sky more easily, allowing grass, flowers, and leaves to cool enough for those tiny droplets to appear. A gentle, still night helps too. When the air remains calm, the cool layer close to the ground is left undisturbed, giving dew time to quietly gather. But when the wind keeps stirring the air, or thick clouds hold the day's warmth close to the earth like a blanket, many mornings wake without a single sparkling drop. Even something so delicate depends on just the right conditions. Although dew disappears quickly after sunrise, those tiny droplets are far more important than they first appear. A small insect may begin its day with a drink from a single drop. A spider's web, nearly invisible the evening before, suddenly becomes a masterpiece outlined in shimmering beads of water. Some plants even benefit from the extra moisture before the warmth of the day begins to draw water back into the air. In some of the driest places on Earth, dew can mean the difference between finding water and going without. Tiny creatures have adapted their lives around these quiet mornings. Some insects climb to the tips of grasses before sunrise, patiently waiting for the night's invisible water to reveal itself. For them, the morning isn't simply beautiful, it's breakfast. Then, as the sun climbs higher, the garden begins to change once again. The grass slowly warms, leaves become dry to the touch. One by one, the sparkling droplets disappear. Not because the water is gone, but because it has quietly returned to the air, becoming invisible once more. The same water that shimmered on the grass at sunrise is now drifting gently through the morning breeze, waiting for another cool evening to begin the journey all over again. Night after night, morning after morning. A quiet cycle that has repeated for millions of years, asking for nothing more than a patient observer. Perhaps that's why morning dew feels so peaceful. It never demands our attention. It doesn't arrive with thunder or strong winds. Instead, it quietly transforms an ordinary garden into something extraordinary, then slips away before most of the world has finished breakfast. The next time you step outside just after sunrise, pause for a moment before the day begins. Look closely at the grass beneath your feet. Notice the flowers. Watch the sunlight catch a spider's web. Those tiny drops weren't placed there by rain. They were patiently gathered through the quiet hours of the night, revealing a hidden story that was there all along. Thank you for joining us on another journey through the curious world around us. If you enjoy discovering the hidden stories behind everyday life, we'd love to have you join us again. Consider subscribing and let us know in the comments, what ordinary wonder should we explore next? Until then, remember, every ordinary thing has an extraordinary story.